I would first like to apologise for creating such a slapdash video in advance. To be fair, this was pretty much a last second idea, but near as I can tell, not many users do this, and for all I know, I might have been the first to try something like this. Today is known as Spyro Community Day, which is basically the Spyro fans' way of generating hype for the Purple Dragon. I might not be a Spyro fan myself, but I am a Portal Master, so I thought it would be a fun idea to do a gameplay review of Spyro the Dragon, the Skylander. And a quick reminder that this video is not professionally made and is very much last second effort. As an additional disclaimer, I only own the Series 3 Dark figure of the character, so I will not be going into detail about the Series 2 WoW Power ability or the Eons Elite gameplay stats for Superchargers Racing. Yes, that is a thing. Anyway, let's review the Magic Dragon Skylander, Spyro.
All fired up!
By this point, I'm assuming anyone watching this is all too familiar with the backstory behind Spyro's inclusion in Skylanders. Whether it be the true story behind it, or the fabricated anti-Skylander propaganda version. To keep it brief though, here's what happened. Development studio Toys for Bob were given the opportunity to revive one of Activision's dormant IPs, and they decided to go with Spyro. They began brainstorming ideas, and one of them that they created was called Spyro's Kingdom. In this early concept, Spyro was originally the central character you would go to for quests and rewards, and not necessarily play as. Eventually, however, they decided to make Spyro playable and replace the prototype character Fire Dragon with him. Over time, the project evolved, and eventually the idea of toys with brains was thought of. Thus, the Toys to Life mechanic was born. Spyro's Kingdom became Skylander Spyro's Adventure, and Spyro the Dragon became a Skylander. In the real world. The lore explanation for Spyro becoming a Skylander is incredibly vague, and likely plays off of the many previous adventures Spyro had in both the main canon and the Legend of trilogy. More so the latter, judging by Cinder's biography. Spyro was also the first Skylander to have been corrupted by the darkness, turning him into Dark Spyro. But, with the help of Master Eon, he was able to tame these dark powers and use them in the fight for good, and even teach other Skylanders who became corrupted how to control their dark powers. Regardless of how you view it, Spyro has gone on to become something of a franchise mascot alongside Stealth Elf, with both characters appearing on the main box art together several times, and having the equal highest number of distinctive figures. Not only that, but they have appeared in external media together on numerous occasions, from comics to books to, of course, Skylander Academy. And if I ever make this thing a series and talk about Stealth Elf, I'll be sure to do a separate video going into detail on this ship, as it can be called. But how does Spyro actually feel to play as? Well, if you play classic Spyro, you have a vague idea of how it works. There are a few differences, however, so don't go expecting an exact one-to-one copy-paste. Spyro's primary ability is Dragon's Fire, a fireball blaster he can shoot as a ranged attack. With basic upgrades, this can be enhanced to travel further and also shoot additional fireballs at once, increasing the attack's range and field of effect. This is Spyro's primary offensive method and deals the most damage directly. Spyro's secondary ability is the Charge Attack. Not only does this increase his running speed for a short time, but it deals damage to enemies on contact. The attack is low damage but has the caveat of knocking back and staggering enemies, allowing Spyro to disrupt enemies as well as more easily move through minor enemies like Chompies. And finally, Spyro's tertiary ability is Flight. By taking to the skies, Spyro's speed increases and allows him to move about quicker, albeit with a more awkward turning angle. To be honest, Flight is a rather superfluous ability on Spyro. In the early games where jumping wasn't a mechanic, it did allow him to traverse over water, but it plays little benefit in combat since charge is generally faster and better. Upgrading Spyro along the Sheep Burner path increases Spyro's Dragon's Fire attack. The ability can be enhanced in damage directly through the Exploding Fire Blast and the Daybringer Flame upgrades. Exploding Fire Blast causes attacks to explode and deal more damage, whereas the Daybringer Flame is a charge-up attack that allows Spyro to launch a singular powerful fireball that explodes and deals enormous damage. In some games, it can even pierce through enemies. Fire Shield is something. It generates a small shield of fire around Spyro whenever he uses his primary ability. But honestly, it never really serves a functional use in practice. The best I can imagine it being used for is when you're using Dragon's Fire up close and personal and you want to maximize damage. But there's a small issue with that. I'll get to that in a second. In general, Sheep Burner is the best option in terms of damage output. The power spike of exploding fire blocks and the Daybringer Flame are incredible and can quickly deal with enemies over long distance. Where it falls off, I feel, is how it actually feels to use. While the concept is sound, Spyro's core gameplay does not cater all too well to being a mid to long range offensive unit, let alone at close range, hence the reason why Fire Shield's function is borderline useless. And that's primarily down to how effective and impactful his charge attack is. That said, if you can overclock the damage output of Spyro with high crit rate and lots of elemental power, this attack path deals with enemies very quickly. Upgrading Spyro along the Blitz path enhances his charge attack. Combat Dash is a straight power upgrade that increases the damage output, allowing charge to be more viable as a direct attack. Stun Charge trades out the stagger effect for a longer lasting stun effect, making the attack more disruptive. The final upgrade is Ibex's Wrath Charge, an attack that extends the charge duration and becomes more powerful after a while. If I'm being brutally honest, Blitz is a kind of meaningless upgrade path. The only real benefit you can get out of it is the Stun Charge upgrade, since charging as an offensive option versus Dragon's Fire is heavily inferior. The upgrade path is more suited to crowd control and being supportive, so in an environment of cooperative play, a Blitz Spyro may be situationally better. Keyword there being situationally. Finally, we have the Soul Gem and Wow Power abilities. The Soul Gem ability is Earth Pound, where Spyro can interrupt his flight with a powerful slam attack. Not only does it stagger enemies from all angles, but it is also Spyro's single most powerful attack. This is the one time where flight actually has a purpose. Yet I actually think that this ability works best as a radial attack for when you are being chased rather than when you are surrounded. Especially if you are dealing with bulky enemies that only attack on occasion. But if you are surrounded, you can use it in this situation. Do note that using Earth Pound does not cancel out flight. And it probably should really, it would combo better in the charge. That said, it does work well with the Blitz upgrade path, since you can combine them to stun enemies and then use Earth Pound to damage those enemies since they won't be moving. The first Wow Power ability, Fire Slam, is a direct upgrade of this attack that launches fireballs whenever Spyro slams down, increasing not only damage output but the effective range and efficiency of the attack. As I don't have a Series 2 Spyro, I can only speculate on the actual effectiveness of this Wow Power ability. The second Wow Power ability though, Head Start, I can speak confidently on. Head Start is an extension upgrade on the charge attack that launches a fireworm at the end of an extended charge. The worm fires out in a straight line until it hits something, at which point it explodes and sends affected enemies flying. With this being a charge-based attack, you'd think this would be a good Wow Power to combine with the Blitz upgrade path. But actually, no, there is a reason the attack is called Head Start. It's a head start. The effects of the attack act as a secondary crowd control function, allowing Spyro to disperse enemies and pick them off one by one. In effect, I find it combos better with Sheep Burner, since you can use it to catapult enemies back and then pick them off with your ranged attack. But if you are finding yourself using charge more than Dragon's Fire, perhaps switching upgrade paths isn't such a bad idea. Long as the short, and it kind of pains me to say this, but Spyro is a pretty one-dimensional character to play as. His base attacks are useful and have their purposes, but if you compare him to characters like Stealth Elf, Starstrike, Chop Chop, Fiesta, so on and so forth, he doesn't really have a set playstyle that one can pick up and go, yes, this feels fun to play as. This is probably the one thing that the anti-Skylander crowd are correct on. Skylander Spyro really just feels like watered down classic Spyro. The biggest issue with him is that regardless of which upgrade path you choose, he doesn't really change that much, only really altering in terms of his more effective use. Pure offense versus crowd control. That said, he is an effective source of crowd control, so if you're intending to use him for that purpose, he fits the mold well. But the benefits of crowd control as Spyro can only really be seen in cooperative play, particularly alongside long-range Skylanders. In conclusion, while Spyro definitely has a good use and plays it effectively, He mostly relies on one attack to do all the damage for him and the other to be reliable in play. He's by no means a bad Skylander, just a very subpar one. Not the best way to celebrate Spyro Community Day in hindsight. If you like this video and want to see me review other Skylanders in some kind of series of some sort, and I don't do this unless I'm looking for feedback, comment below and let me know. Also, if there is a particular Skylander you want me to talk about and I do end up turning this into a series, tell me which one and maybe I'll cover them at some point. Until next time, I'm the primordial Clok-Roo, signing out.